ladies, when you send us to the store, turn your ringtone on. It's not even in case we might call you, okay? We're going to call you. The potatoes aren't where you said they'd be. The guy who works here's never even heard of the hair stuff you use. And the aisle you said ketchup would be in is now cleaning supplies.
You could be home working. You could be home with the kids. You could be like watching a show trying to relax, and then he's calling you 6 times because he can't find ketchup. Like, are we fucking serious? Like,
bitch, what I was trying to say is this situation got me so wet and so dry at the same time. Exactly.
what's up, bitches? Welcome back to another episode of So Wet, So Dry. I'm one of your hosts, Fiji, like the island, like the water. I think I pulled my hip flexor fucking the other day, and I work in social media and marketing.
And my name is Autumn, like the season. I'm a 2-year retired stripper who daydreams about going back to the club on the weekly basis.
Okay.
And I work in entertainment. If you're new here, what we do on So Wet, So Dry is we deep dive topics about sex, relationships, identity, all through the lens of pop culture, internet trends, and our community's experiences. We want y'all to be a part of the conversation. So please follow us on Instagram at So Wet, So Dry, because we post polls for every single episode. So you guys can share stories and whatnot. So follow us there. Today, we are talking about weaponized incompetence. What is it? Where does it come from? Do gender roles matter? Is it fucked? The answer is yes, but we're going to get into it.
But before we get into all that, we're going to start the episode as we always do, real quick, talking about what we're so wet and so dry about in this very moment. So I'll go first. I'm so wet. Guys, if you are loyal listeners, you know that I was fucking with my man, who's not my man. And we, split up for a good little 3 months. But we're back, bitch. I don't want to hear it. I'm in love. I'm happy. The dick's good. I cut off all my other hoes. I don't want to talk to nobody else.
No, I'm proud of you for cutting off your other hoes and not ghosting and just being like, cordial, friendly, like, hey, what's
honest.
up? I'm not trying, like, dude, honestly, that's fucking huge for you. And I love you were like anxious about it. You were like, oh my gosh, like, I think I should text him like right now. Like, and I was like, yeah, just get that shit over with. But no, I mean, it is what it is. I think, like, I see that you're happy, and that's literally all I fucking care about. I don't think he's a demon like some other bitches. So
he's not. He's honestly fine. Like one of the best, probably the best.
But we're not gonna like put him on a pedestal. But like,
okay, but he's supportive of the podcast, so
right?
Like,
yeah. He does.
But anyway, guys, I'm happy. Don't give me too much grief. And yeah,
grief. Yeah, so I would say I'm so wet because I read a book. Not actually, I guess I listened to a book. I listened to an audiobook, but that's still like reading, right?
Reading, yeah.
And it was, I know I'm super late per usual, but it was Jeanette McCurdy's memoir, and it was just absolutely fantastic. I listened to it in her voice, which I think was really impactful.
Oh, that's dope.
As someone that struggled with eating disorders, it was low-key a little bit triggering, but it was like it was very real and very good. And the other thing I'm wet about is I finished my puzzle that I got. It's Alice in Wonderland themed. I am unemployed. I literally just do puzzles and watch. Like,
that's so cute.
I'm losing my mind, but I'm wet about those two things. I love like a good story, like memoirs are so fantastic. Yes. So I love
they motivate you because you hear about other people's struggles, you want to learn how to overcome them, all that stuff.
And Jeanette McCurdy is an absolute warrior. Like, she is
I need to read it.
It's really good. It's really quick. If you're a Spotify owner, you get it for free.
Okay.
Because I didn't pay for it.
Yeah, because I started Julia Fox's memoir, and then I stopped because I feel like you need to really listen. You can't be doing other shit during that one. But I should definitely start because I've been looking for more podcasts.
I was building in The Sims the whole time I listened to it. But I listened to it straight through, bitch, all 100 chapters. It wasn't that long, though, but it was good.
So I'm so dry because I've been watching The Bachelor and Love is Blind. Like, me and my friend Sean watch it every, like, Monday and Tuesday.
That's y'all's bonding time.
Wednesday. Yeah, and I love it. Like, guys, like, I used to hate on reality TV so much, but I low-key love it, especially the sex and relationship shit. But if you watch The Bachelor, you know that this is probably like the best season so far. And there's this hot ass bitch, dope ass bitch named Maria. She is like the number one, like she's cool as fuck. And there's all these hating ass, insecure bitches hating on her. Like there was this one girl named Sydney. She's gone now. But they just be jealous and trying to like tear her down and like run to like The Bachelor and like talk shit and say she's like bullying people when she's literally not. She's just being like confident in herself. So I just hate hating ass bitches, and it's just interesting to see it in TV because I feel like we've all dealt with a hating bitch before.
Yeah.
You know?
But just remember how much of reality is like they control.
Yeah, it's more. Oh, the producers are definitely pulling some strings and changing those narratives.
The editing.
For sure. And also, guys, like, as much as I say that, like, I'm talking about the show and, like, the fantasy or whatever. Don't go on her Instagram and send hate comments because I know she's been getting, like, a lot of, like, death threats, hate comments. Like, she's still a human, you know?
Yeah.
What she was doing, probably not the best behavior regardless, but still, like,
yeah.
She's a human and let's not ruin her
right.
life. So also dry about that.
Right. It's a double per usual.
Double dry.
This week, I'm so dry. I think this was like 2 days ago, but I like kind of had a mental breakdown. And I was like yelling at my roommate when I shouldn't have been. And I did cry and we were in public. Dude, I've been going.
Oh, in public?
Well, like I didn't. Yeah. I don't really care though. Like I'm like, ooh, like I just cried a little. Now I'm walking.
You don't
like,
know
it's
those
giving
people.
confidence.
Like,
yeah,
right.
No one really saw me. I was all by myself. But anyways, then I was going up the elevator and this one guy like. And I'm, like, so lonely right now. So I'm like, oh, he's giving daddy because he's, like, tall and, like, strong. And he was moving boxes. And he was like, oh, are you going up? I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I'll take the next one. I was like, no. Why?
No, come with
and
me.
he was like, oh, I just have all these boxes. I was like, it's cool. I'll wait for you. Like, I'll hold the door, bro. So I'm, like, standing here. He's, like, loading it. I'm like, okay, getting my social interaction for the month. And then I had just cried, right? I don't look cute, like, at all. And then right when I was exiting the elevator, we were going up, he was like, are you, like, okay, though? Because, like, and then I literally was like, and I was like, have a good day.
That's
lost
such
it.
a woman moment.
Because when people say, are you okay? And
when
he
you're not,
cared, I was
yeah.
and I was like, oh, you're moving in? Whatever. He's like, no, I'm helping someone move in. I was like, oh, shit.
His girlfriend probably. Damn.
No.
Okay.
You think?
Maybe it's his
He
sister,
said, are you
brother.
okay? Like, the fact that he cared, like, really meant a lot to me in that moment.
Yeah. Maybe you'll see him again.
Well, honestly, this is wet. Why is this in my
Yeah,
dry
that's
situation?
wet. Like, it's a daddy in your building.
The crying
you can see
in
him
public
again.
was, like, dry. But anyways. All right, so let's get into this week's topic. We are talking about weaponized incompetence. And just like every fucking episode we do, we define it first. So, what is weaponized incompetence? Weaponized incompetence is a form of passive-aggressive behavior where an individual deliberately performs tasks poorly or pretends to be incapable of completing certain tasks. This manipulation tactic is often used to avoid responsibility, forcing others to take over and perform the task instead. On the internet, weaponized incompetence is presented as being largely experienced by women in heterosexual relationships. In one of the most viral examples, a TikTok creator who goes by the name Laura Danger calls out a dad who promised to watch the baby so his wife could shower, but then fell asleep, leaving their infant essentially unattended while the mom took a minute for herself. We do have that TikTok that we're going to be watching later on too, but I guess that was like one of the ones that like really took that off, and we're going to watch it. It's ridiculous.
I do have one thing. I know I said I wasn't going to comment on the definition, but I do have one thing. Okay, when it says weaponized incompetence is a form of passive-aggressive behavior where an individual deliberately performs tasks, I know we're probably going to talk about this more later, but would you say that it's also subconscious?
For sure.
Like, right. So it's
like they're on
autopilot.
Yeah,
like it's like they might not be thinking like I have this grand scheme to be
totally,
whatever.
Totally. And we will get into that later. It's like the intention isn't always that. But yeah, so we also want to share just a brief history of the term just because, you know, we like to know where shit comes from. It's kind of interesting. So obviously most of us know about weaponized incompetence because of TikTok. It went viral in recent years. And but the concept has actually been around for decades. So in 2007, journalist Jared Sandberg described the phenomenon in a Wall Street Journal article about strategic incompetence. Even earlier than that, in 1986, the business theorist Chris Argyris published a piece in the Harvard Business Review in which he described it as a skilled incompetence. Some other terms you may have heard include willful incompetence, malicious incompetence, and weaponized ignorance.
Interesting. So a man is the one that first reported on it. That's interesting.
Right. But it was a little bit different. So the terms continue to evolve in the fields of psychology and sociology. And in summer of 2021, weaponized incompetence went viral thanks to TikTok. Since then, it's demonstrated serious staying power as a phrase used to call out partners, mostly heterosexual men, who use or feign incompetence as a way to get out of doing things they don't want to do and leave their partner carrying the mental load. So even though weaponized incompetence can be deployed by anyone to get out of an unwanted task, it's still likely that gender roles have a huge influence. If one person was raised in a family where girls helped out with the laundry while boys played outside, they are more likely to repeat this behavior. It's like this generational shit. And that was said by Lauren I don't know these people's names. But she's a therapist at the Ohana in Hawaii. But anyway, so yeah, and I do want to point that out that it's like really anyone can do weaponized incompetence. We'll get into it. I've definitely done it before. Yeah. It can play out in different ways, but obviously gender roles do have a big influence, and it going viral on TikTok and basically being all about heterosexual relationships. That's what most people just think it is. But in the history and all those like journalists or whatever, like it started off kind of in the workplace, like women would do it and like it all started, but now this is what it looks like in 2024.
Yeah, because I think this episode would be a good one for you guys to listen to with our bimbo episode. Because when we were talking about it, we were like, this is kind of like
bimbocore for men.
Bimbocore for men, exactly. But women in the workplace use it more as a mechanism to like deal with the way that they're oppressed at the workplace. Like, you know, fake stupid, because that's all men see them as anyway, to get up. Which men are using it to get up as well, but they're not oppressed in heterosexual relationships. So.
Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, we asked you guys some polls on Instagram per usual about this topic. So
yes, first we asked the men, have you ever played dumb with your girlfriend to avoid responsibility? And 27% said yes. And of course, 73% said no. So I know some of y'all are fucking lying.
Liars.
Because women, we asked y'all, have you ever felt like your boyfriend played dumb to avoid responsibility? 85% said yes and 15% said no. So clearly there is a fucking gap between men's understanding of this. And I think that goes back to the thing I said earlier where it's like deliberate, but it could be subconscious.
Right. Maybe they genuinely don't think they're doing it.
Yep.
But every time they make up an excuse as to why they can't, you know, do that dish or that laundry or even plan that date. Like, it doesn't need to be so domestic. Like, it is domestic, and that's where a lot of it's talked about online with these domestic responsibilities. But it can be even as simple as, like, they're not planning the date. They're not doing things.
Yeah, like, I have a pretty good example. Like, this shit is, like, huge in my family. Like, I've seen it a lot growing up because I feel like the women in my family take on a lot of the domestic labor and the men, like, kind of sit back. Like, just there's a lot of gender roles in my family. And I don't want to talk shit on my family because obviously I love them, but I'm saying this so that, like, you guys relate. I feel like, you know, everyone goes through this shit. But I was home for Christmas and we were watching this, that Lindsay Lohan Hallmark movie.
I loved that movie.
It's so corny, but so good. And, you know, she's rich. She doesn't know how to make a bed or whatever. And she's like, helpless. Totally. And I was like making fun of the movie. And I'm like, who the fuck doesn't know how to make a bed? Like, even if you don't know how to make it professionally, you know how to make a bed. And my mom was like, your brother doesn't. And I'm like, Mom, like, it's just ridiculous because I know for me that was a whole task I had to learn as, like, a young girl, like, doing the laundry, making the bed. And I'm like, he is 23 at this point. It's not really his fault. It's how he was raised. It's not my mom's fault. It's how she was raised. But it's just that shit that pisses you off because it's like, this is seen as a woman's task. And then my brother can go into his next relationship being like, I don't know how to make the bed, you know?
It's not setting him up to be a well-rounded individual.
Right.
In
exactly.
these changing generational times.
Exactly.
It's interesting. It's the exact opposite with my moms. Like, they're on my brother hard about chores.
Good.
Like, they are on him, bro. Like, he hates it. Like, it's really bad. But
yeah,
sometimes he, like, storms out. Like, he really doesn't want to do it.
As they should. I mean, I definitely did, too. Like, my parents definitely had my brother do, like, other chores and shit. But, like, it's a big thing, like, with grocery shopping, too. Like, I know my mom would make him a list. Like, that's a very common one. And then they call you 6 times at the grocery store, like, what aisle is it in?
We literally have a TikTok about that later because that was another trend. It's the grocery store and all that shit. But yeah, let's get into some examples of weaponized incompetence. We're going to share some, and then we'll also talk about some more from our own life. But basically, weaponized incompetence can happen at any time with literally any task. The biggest indicator is frequently finding yourself in situations in which your partner could take on or learn how to do something, but instead they pass the buck to you instead of taking initiative. So this article basically says these are some examples. It's claiming not to know how to perform basic chores, avoiding to learn how to do childcare shit, avoiding responsibility when it comes to finances, lack of involvement in planning, scheduling activities like planning dates, and avoiding responsibility for grocery store shopping or meal prep, like we just said. So again, these are all a lot of domestic, and I think a lot of the articles that I was reading were about domestic and married couples and couples that live together. So that's definitely kind of the scope of like this episode. But obviously, you know, as well, I'm single. I don't even know anymore about you. But it's like thinking about that in terms of dating. It's like also just this overwhelming idea of like men not like showing up the way that women need them to. That's like that's the underlying, like, we can sit here and talk about bullet points, but at the end of the day, like, this shit's about fucking respect. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is not like funny. You know?
Yeah, because it's about basic shit like how to take care of yourself or your child. And like, this is also used to be like, oh, women are nurturers, women are home builders, whatever. So they should be doing this stuff. But it's like, if you were living alone as a man, you need to know how to fucking grocery shop for yourself, how to do all this shit. So like, why, when you're with a partner, do you let it all fall on her? And then it also comes with the emotional labor of like having to like keep track of yourself and also this other person and all of their tasks. So yeah, with the joint finances, I definitely experienced that with my ex too, because like, even though it's like a thing, I think for men and women, like men usually are like the finances, things fall on them. But in my relationship, all the finance shit was on me. Like I talked about with him in court and everything like that, even applying to jobs, like all of that shit, he would just act like he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know how to do it. I'm the responsible one.
Which, like, yes, he didn't know what was going on, but he also didn't care to learn what was going on. And that's the problem.
It's like learned helplessness. I actually just watched, I'll plug it in the description, but I just listened to an episode. I forget who it was by, but I'll plug it. But it was all about learned helplessness. It was all about learned helplessness on the internet and how people will like not watch a whole video and then comment like, wait, where do I find this shoe when they literally said it? So like, I think that's a new version of like weaponized incompetence as well.
That is so irritating.
Yeah. Like literally Google it, bitch.
I found this personal essay by someone named Sammy Gale in this magazine, and it was entitled, "I'm a boyfriend who uses weaponized incompetence. Can I change? ? Okay. And kind of like how you were saying at the beginning when I read the definition, like it's not always intentionally manipulative. Right. So he was essentially saying this. So he said, weaponized implies a level of manipulation that seems not exactly unfair, but inaccurate, at least in my case. After taking time to reflect on my own behavior and asking Emily, his partner, naturally, I had to admit that my uses of weaponized incompetence are usually sins of neglect. I'm more likely not to act, to forget, to quote unquote run out of time, perhaps subconsciously by procrastinating or taking on too much work, to the point that I find myself waiting a few fruit flies from, and then he starts talking about this plant metaphor, like how the plant's dying because he's not watering it, and then Emily properly waters and repots it before they leave for the airport, whatever. But there is also, if I'm honest, part of my brain that justifies doing less of the thinking and planning in our relationship simply because I think she does a better job of it all than I do. Before I heard what weaponized incompetence was, I didn't question my assumption that Emily is obviously superior at arranging fun weekends, keeping track of our money, email, whatever. So he's basically saying that it's like, well, she's just better at them. I'm not trying to manipulate anything. It's just like their strengths and weaknesses. And a lot of people argued, like these married couples, like, well, we're each going to take on the tasks that we're good at and we split it up and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a really good story because I like how he's like reflecting on it and like acknowledging
it was
like, the plant metaphor. Yeah, like it's clear that he like is realizing the problem, and I think that's the first step because like I think a lot of men can get defensive, especially when you hear a term like weaponized against your girlfriend or your wife. You're like, oh my God, I don't do that, which is why so many men voted against it in the polls. But I think it's really interesting that he said, you know, he assumes that his girlfriend Emily is like better at this stuff. And I think a lot of men, this stuff comes from a place of like insecurity too, where it's like maybe they were raised, you know, in a household where most of the women did this type of stuff. They start to be like, not only think that it's not their job, but just be like, oh, I'm never going to do it right. Or like she's going to just be like frustrated and want to do it better. Or like, I can't, like the helpless shit.
I know.
And which is so unattractive and not daddy vibes at all.
Because if you bring it out into perspective, I mean, like we said before, like this is a generational problem. Like if you grow up seeing these dynamics in your household subconsciously, that's what you're going to imagine marriage to be like. Like, you know, that's a thing. And it's like, I had a different experience. Like my parents were divorced and my dad always cooked. He cooked every single meal. He was a great cook. Like he had a wife and she just, it wasn't her thing. She didn't want anything to do with cooking and she didn't. And so it's like that happens and that's definitely a thing. But I think for the majority, especially of like white America, like it's like, why am I saying white America?
No, but I think you have a good point because honestly, like I was thinking about this when I was like walking my dog and thinking about what I was going to say for the episode. I was like, I feel like for me, it's come up a lot more with the white men that I've dated or been like family members than it has for the black men that I've dated.
That's
like
what I was
with the
kind of
exclusion
thinking.
of that one ex. But like, I really feel like, cause I think my dad did cook a lot. And he would pick us up. Like there was a time period when I was growing up where he stayed home and worked from home and my mom was like at work. So he was like the home parent or whatever. But it was such a big deal when he did. Like I remember my aunts and my nana and like whatever being all like, oh, like, are you ready? Like, are you ready to do this? Like, you're going to have to like acting like he's like 12, you know, and these are insane responsibilities when we're your kids. It's not that hard to make us mac and cheese and to like wake us up for school, you know?
We're your kids. You should be able to take care of us when the other parent isn't present. Like that should be, we're just like, and then it's like, oh, so it's like the mom is more of the parent because like she birthed you. And so, you know what? It's like all so twisted.
But I also feel like in a way, like it's also with the men. I feel like if they're mama's boys in a weird way, they're more likely to be like this because like, they're used to their mom like doing things for them. So they're like, oh, like she's got it. And then they give that to their partner. But I also think as women, we kind of got to reflect on that as well. Because I'm like, I know that my family was brought up that way. I've seen myself take on a lot of that shit in relationships that I've been in. But I'm like, if I were to ever have a son, I got to watch myself because I don't want to, you know, I think unintentionally women do, like raise their sons that way as well.
I think I would have an incredible hard time raising a son because I mean if you guys even saw the way that I treat my dog, let alone my newborn baby.
Yes.
I mean I'm just like the ultimate like, and I think raising sons is really hard. Like, that's all I'm going to
Yeah.
say. But,
Oh, it's definitely.
and this is like, I mean, it's like, yes, this is a problem. Like, men are doing this shit in relationships, but if you bring it back, like, I really think it's just another, you know, patriarchy situation, the way that people are raised, like the stereotypes that we have, like, in our country and everywhere, like, it's hard to fucking, like, not, like, to miss that. Like, we're all just so immersed in it. But I think it's on men to, like this personal essay, dude, like, to really reflect on it.
Yeah, because I think, like, also, I feel like most of the examples are, like, from my family. But, like, it becomes funny in a way, too. Like, even when I was talking in the prison episode about, like, my ex and how, like, him getting locked up would be funny because it was the same pattern over and over again. Like, I know, like, my dad would always joke about how my mom was the one who had shit together and he didn't. And, like, they went on their first vacation and he brought his clothes in a brown paper bag. And, like, didn't have a suitcase. And it's, like, this joke. Or, like, he doesn't know how to hang a picture frame. And it's, like, funny. Like, he's helpless. Like, it becomes this joke where it's, like, oh, you know, it's self-deprecating. Like, it's kind of funny. But at the same time, it's, when you really think about it, it's not. Because all of that work, while we can laugh about it to cope with it, is falling on my mom or, like, whatever women. And I actually tried to have a conversation with my dad and my brother about, like, similar stuff to this. And I don't think, like, they're not bad. Like, my gender roles in my family are not as bad as a lot of people's. Like, my dad did do domestic work in my family. But it's just crazy, like,
yeah. And to flip it also, like, an example with myself, like, I definitely feel like this weaponized incompetence can also have to do kind of with being spoiled and just, like, really privileged. Because I definitely feel like as a little girl, like, I would definitely, and maybe this is just part of being young, but, like, you know, not do something because my mom would do it. And even, like, in my adult life, like, I live with one of my really close friends and she's my roommate, and, like, definitely with some chores around the house, I feel like I'll do it with her just because I'm like, she does do it. Like, she does clean better than me. And, like, I even said to her, I'm like, oh, like, she was like, what's the topic? Are you recording today? I was like, weaponized incompetence. She's like, what's that? And, oh, no, she knew what it was because of TikTok. And I was like, do I do that? And before I even finished, she was like, yes. And so it's just like, I definitely, so I get it. And that's why I'm like, it's not completely like just men. Like, I think there's a part of us, like, it's like a thing that some people do. But like we were saying, it's more detrimental when men do it specifically to women because of, like, sexism and all that shit.
Yeah. And especially, like, living together if you're having kids and the examples that you're setting and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So let's get into some TikToks.
Oh.
The hashtag weaponized incompetence literally has over 67 million views on TikTok. So like you said, it's viral as fuck. And this is a TikTok about a man going to the store and not knowing what the fuck he's doing. So let's watch it.
Ladies, when you send us to the store, turn your ringtone on. It's not even in case we might call you, okay? We're going to call you. The potatoes aren't where you said they'd be. The guy who works here's never even heard of the hair stuff you use. And the aisle you said ketchup would be in is now cleaning supplies.
Does she have to teach you how to eat the food too?
Okay, this is hilarious. Like, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, people will literally take this shit and make it funny.
Right.
Like, because it's relatable. Like, that's a TikTok that you could see if you're in a relationship like this and send it to your husband or your boyfriend or whatever and be like,
and
oh,
that's
you do
so
this
sad.
shit.
And looks aside, bro. That man, like, he's so ugly to me because of what he just said. Like, that's crazy. And it's like, I feel like we'll keep coming back to this that you said at the literal very beginning. Like, what if you lived alone?
Right.
There would be no there would be none of this going on because you would just do it. Like, it's just like, actually, and that's why it's like, talk about being like stuck in the matrix. Like, just because you have a wife, you automatically like are stupid in these categories. That
right. It's like your new mom. Like, you're not in a relationship to like build together. You're really just like, you need someone to take care of you. That's why I think like guys that are serial monogamous can be kind of scary because it's like they haven't really lived by themselves or taken care of themselves on their own. Like, they always need a woman to like be doing all the extra shit.
And I definitely never want to blame women ever, but there's definitely some women out there that aren't feminists and raise their men like to be like this, raise their boys to be like this and to be like, oh, well, you'll get a woman to do that for
Right.
you. Like, that's definitely a thing. And, like, a little boy's going to listen to his mom. So it's, like, not to, you know, be that villain right now, but that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, and it's like, even by, like, laughing at it, you're encouraging it because you're like, oh, like, it's this bit that we have that I send him to the grocery store with a list and he doesn't know what the fuck to do, and then we, like, giggle about it. But, like,
it's like, oh,
at
he's
the
so
same
cute. That's not
like,
really
no,
cute.
because, like, you could be home working, you could be home with the kids, you could be, like, watching a show trying to relax, and then he's calling you 6 times because he can't find ketchup. Like, are we fucking serious? Like, the only way to really deal with that is you gotta, and then
as if you've
seen as a bitch.
memorized, like, the aisles in the grocery
Right,
store.
ask
I mean,
someone at the grocery store if you don't know.
I mean, yeah.
The aisles are labeled. Condiments. Like,
right. Condiments. I know. Yeah. So another viral, so that was, like, viral. Like, there's a lot of videos just like that, but with different men, you know, it's terrifying. Another one is, you know, people's partners spilling ketchup on the counter purposely, and then to see what their boyfriend would do. Like, actually insane if you just say those words out loud. I'm sure you guys have honestly seen this, but just in case you haven't, let's watch real quick.
Oh, the fuck?
Oh my god.
okay, the way that he looks so, like, pissed off in that, and why is he rubbing it into the counter?
Like, is that an actual joke?
And he looks so pissed off. Like, why is she
And
making me do
again,
this?
looks aside, he's hideous because of
Disgusting.
these actions. Like, it's just absolutely crazy to me. And it's like, okay, well, you've obviously never worked, like, in customer service. Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, damn.
Yeah, worked at a restaurant, anything. Like, have you ever had a job? Because, like, what would you do?
Yeah, have you ever had a job? That, to me, like, that's not funny at all. Like,
no,
that is
that
not
one
funny.
is like the
There's-
grocery store one. I could giggle about,
Right.
maybe
There's
if I was
some
in
that
the
are
right
giggleable.
mood. But that's
I
not think
funny.
he, like, made the ketchup like an ingredient to the counter, like the
Like,
way
that
he,
poor dog has a horrible, you know what I mean, bro?
She needs to break up with him.
And this next one that is pretty, it's kind of similar, but this one I was able to find, not this video specifically, this trend I was able to find a lot more humor in than the ketchup one. But this is like the wife or the girlfriend, the partner asking their husband to get them pads with wings. Which, if you guys don't know, pads have wings that are little flaps
So it
that come out
doesn't
of the
leak
side
over.
to, like, stick onto our fucking, like, it's a whole thing we go through, okay?
Yep.
But anyways, the other pads without wings, it's kind of just, like, up in the air, like, what's going on? I hate those. That's a panty
They
liner.
slide,
Like,
they
that's
move.
So let's watch this, and no hate to them at all, because this is one of my favorite TikTok accounts on the internet. Okay.
Oh my God, Kyle, what is this, bro?
I got you pads with wings like you asked.
Kyle, right, I said pads with wings, bro.
I did. I got you pads with wings. I got a variety of wings.
My
I got
God.
buffalo wings, bone-in wings, honey barbecue wings, fried wings.
Kyle, I didn't say chicken wings. I said give me some pads with wings.
I did, Jay. I got you pads with wings. Look at
Kyle.
the pads, Jay. You didn't
Oh
even say
my
which kind
God.
you wanted. So I got you a variety of pads.
Oh my God, Kyle, look, what? Read that. What did that say?
It says maxi pads without wings.
Exactly. Without wings, I wanted pads with wings.
Exactly. Why would they come with wings?
God,
They
Kyle.
got maxi pads that come with wings.
Kyle, yes, they do. Some come with wings.
They come with wings? So
Yes.
you telling me that I got overcharged for these wings that I
Oh
paid
my
for?
God. Not chicken wings, Kyle. They come with wings already.
They have maxi pads that come with wings.
Yes,
So
Kyle.
I need to take my receipt, get in the car, drive up to Myers, and get my money back for paying for these wings.
Kyle, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna just take the wings. Thank you.
No!
Appreciate it. I'm
No,
good. I'm
I'm
good.
going to the store. I'll be right back.
Okay, this one is actually like funnier to me because it's like, I get it. Like, not all guys are gonna know that you know, like, it's a period thing, like it's a woman's hygiene body thing, like they're not gonna know. I wouldn't even be mad because like chicken wings too, like, is a vibe.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, this is more funny to me because it's also like, I mean, they were literally like, can I have pads with wings? And then they literally went and like got a whole meal. Like, it's like they really didn't do that. Was thank you.
Yeah,
you know, especially
right.
if you're on your period, like Wingstop.
I want
like,
wings too.
I would be down. So that's why it's a little bit less, but it's still like I find myself babying them and being like, oh, that's so cute.
Right.
Which, yes, I guess you're not like banned for life if you don't know what pads with wings are. But I do think, especially as like a husband with like, and if you have children, like I feel like you kind of should know what it is.
Especially
maybe.
if you have like daughters and a wife, like it's
you
just
should
like
kind of know. I don't
And
know.
also, my whole thing is like with a lot of these guys, they went to the store and got like 6 different types of pads and tampons and wings, which honestly is better, I think, than calling a bunch of times to be like, which ones do you want?
But
I feel
they were
you
like
should know.
they had no idea. They were like, I'll just get the whole row, please.
Right, like let me just get the whole fucking I saw one where this
Then
woman
she
sent her
stacked for 3
son.
months.
One woman sent her son and he came back with adult diapers.
See,
but
that's a little bit more understandable.
It's a kid.
Unfortunately.
Right.
But that's society for you.
Yeah.
Because we're also hush-hush about periods and guys, you know, close their eyes when anything's mentioned, and we'll get into that. But that's society, those boys, bro.
Yeah, and I think it's also just like paying attention to shit. Like, it's like, I know when I lived with my ex, like I know what shampoo he uses. I know what lotion he uses. Like, I pay attention to those things. Like, if you're my
like,
partner
'cause
that
we're
I'm living
women,
with.
but
Right,
no.
because we're women. But like, if you're living with me and you're my partner, like, you have the same bathroom as me. You probably see what tampons and what pads I use, like the brand, like you would know with the toothpaste. Like, why is it that difficult?
Right.
But they just either don't pay attention or they act stupid. I don't know.
Or they use all of it, because that would happen with my fucking ex-boyfriend. Like, he'd be like, oh, like I put him onto this serum, and then he's like fucking showering in it. I'm like, babe, one drop.
Right,
drop.
that's mine.
That shit's expensive. Anyways, like, but this last TikTok is another example, and this one actually kind of pains me. Like, this one genuinely pains me. It's essentially, you know, a husband asking a wife, wow, the child's nails aren't growing. Is there something wrong? Should we take them to a doctor? And it's like, the wife's like, no, I cut them. And then this TikTok kind of goes in more into explain the privilege. It's kind of giving spoken word. I don't know. Let's watch it.
Okay, vibes.
Not going to believe this. The other day, my husband was looking at our 2-year-old and he said, your nails are so short. They're always so short. And then he looked over at me and said, how come her nails don't grow? Does that mean she has like a vitamin deficiency? Keep in mind she's 2, and what this means is he has never cut or filed her nails in over 2 years. So I started thinking, wow, he doesn't know that I do that. I wonder if he knows how her butt gets clean. I wonder if he has any idea why her teeth are always white. There must be so many things he doesn't know or doesn't have to worry about. How amazing that must be. If I could change places with anyone in this world, I think it would be my husband. What a privileged man. In his world, the mini trash cans empty themselves. His mirror never has toothpaste splashes on it. Little by little, his house becomes more aesthetically pleasing, and he has no idea how or why. He doesn't have to worry about giving the children their vitamins. He lives in a world where he doesn't know that you have to vacuum under the cushions of a couch. Tag your husband if he's one of the elite and knows these things.
No, that's insane. Like, that's so sad. Like, honestly,
so
it
sad.
breaks my heart. Like, I want to cry.
And it's like that's a white family, gonna point it out. And also, this just brings me back to the generational shit. It's like, I feel for the children. And there was another TikToker that made a thing about this, is like, I don't feel bad for the partner, I feel bad for the kids, because it's like,
right,
she's growing up in that society. Like, my dad doesn't, change my diapers, do my nails, whatever.
Yeah.
As a 2-year-old is helpless and actually needs things. It's just like the irony.
And then that messes you up when you like grow older too, because like you're going to be like, oh, like men, I'm not used to men taking care of me or taking care of things. Like you're used to like women doing that or doing that yourself. Like, how can you have a 2-year-old and just not, like, it's your baby too. Like, it's literally your child.
I remember too, like when I would go stay with my dad, it would just be me and him. Like my stepmom and my sisters would be like off at their grandparents or whatever. It was just me and him. I would shower, come down. I still do this to this day. Like I don't dry my hair properly. It's like, and then the shirt I wear after my shower is like soaking wet.
I always do that too.
I just have a lot of hair and I'm like lazy, but I would never dry it properly. So my dad would like try to help me. This fool would literally grab paper towels.
No.
And dry my hair with paper towels. But like, I felt so like taken care of.
Yeah.
Even though, but why didn't I say like, oh, like, you know, mom dries my hair with towels. Like
how do we know as little girls?
Paper towels. I'm just like, I mean, he got it done like a whole roll later.
But it's like, how do you like,
and he would
I just want to be in a man's brain and just think like, I just don't understand how they just go to like the easiest, most difficult, complicated solution.
Yeah.
Instead of like like you've never seen your wife do this stuff. Like, where do you be at?
And that's the other part. And that's where do you be at? And like, why don't you care enough to pay attention? Why don't you like, and this is where I'm like with lesbians and like queer culture, like, I'm like, if 2 lesbians are going to have a baby, they're going to fucking talk about this shit. Like, and like, not like, you know, bullet point and go through every task, but it's like, I don't get how it's just like, and as women, you can just, and not blaming the women, but it's a question that comes up. It's like, how can you just live like that and be the only one to cut your daughter's nails and be happy with that? And like, I think about me wanting to be a mom so bad. I'm like, maybe I would be happy. Like, maybe I just want to cut their nails. I mean, diapers are another story. I feel like that's a 50-50 situation.
Well, and that's the thing with me. Like, you with your dog, I feel like you're much more like loving, nurturing, just because you're a woman does not make you nurturing. I think I am in certain ways, but I'm not the person that's going to be like, you know, oh, let me take my dog to the groomer. Like, I'm not super extra like that. So if I were to have a child, I would need like, you know, because that's so much to keep in your brain.
Yeah. Not like, all women are nurturing. Not all women are like blessed with these cooking, cleaning abilities.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and yes, in the olden days, they used to make sure that that did happen. They would like literally train girls for them when they were really young. But it's like that doesn't happen anymore, you know, for the majority. But I don't know. It's just sad and it's crazy. And to brighten the mood, there are some other TikToks of people like backlashing and responding to this kind of shit. So that's what we're going to get into next.
My husband, he's never even changed a diaper in his life. I'd be shocked if he even knew the kid's doctor. Can we collectively agree that this isn't okay? It's also not fucking funny. TikToks you see of the mom running around getting the whole family ready for vacation and the dad sitting on the couch. Not funny. Really, really not funny. Can we just collectively stop normalizing this degree of lack of engagement and incompetence? Stop normalizing the burden that this puts on women.
Literally. Like, period. Like, and that's the thing too. Like, I feel like I grew up thinking like, oh, my dad's like helpful because like he would do the task that my mom asked, but like always with a kind of annoyance. And it's like, why does she have to tell you the task? Why is she running around making sure I'm good for vacation? She's good. The dog's good. Has the dog babysitter. The plants are watered, and you're sitting in the car being like, we're not leaving on time. Like, that shit is crazy how they just sit back and like wait and relax.
I know. And it's like, yes, there could be situations, and I'm sure there are, like many of them, where it's like, you know, actually the man as like
does more.
He grew up with a single dad and, you know, brothers, and he knows, and the woman is actually like not doing shit. Like, that definitely happens. But I think when it's reversed and it is the man doing this shit, it's just so much deeper, unfortunately, because of like the systems and the psychological patriarchy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I will say, like, in my last relationship with my ex, like, while I took on a lot of the finance stuff, he was much more anal about cleaning. And he did a good amount of the cooking and stuff too because he liked to cook. And I remember him getting on my ass sometimes about like, oh, this needs to be cleaned better. Like he was very OCD.
Totally.
So like that was one thing that I liked about him though. Like when we first met, he would like make me breakfast and he would take the trash out. Like he would notice those little things. And I was like, okay, like that's important to me. Like that you know how to do that stuff because it's just such a and I think a lot of men come into a relationship maybe starting to do those things, but once they get comfortable, they fall off and they just leave it onto the woman.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be like a big thing to be like, oh my God, he took the trash out on his own. Like it should be normal.
Right.
You know?
And unfortunately, it's like I think him specifically, it's like the way that he grew up kind of made him to be like
yeah,
that.
because he was on his own a lot.
Like life experience is everything. Because if you just have the normal society experience they want you to have with your mom doing everything and like you're not gonna be like that.
Right.
It's like you almost have to go through hardship to like see the light, you know? Yep. So this last TikTok I just want to show because I fucking love Brittany Broski. Fiji does too. If you're listening, which we know you're not, we love you. But this is her reaction and she actually, I guess, talks about weaponized incompetence a lot. So
have you seen those videos of people like asking their incompetent, fucking stupid idiot husbands to do shit? Hey babe, can you clean up this mess? And it's like ketchup on the counter. Have y'all seen that fucking video of the dude doing that? He's like, I don't know how to, and he takes a paper towel and he just starts smearing it around. I have never felt more pure rage, just white hot rage. Because men do that shit on purpose. You know what I mean? They do that shit on purpose, so you'll do it for them. I've talked about this before, the weaponized incompetence. I know they do it on purpose. No one's that fucking dumb. Is this how you do it? I'm going to literally knife you in your sleep. I'm gonna gypsy rose you, bitch. I don't care. Clean the fucking ketchup! I want to be a man for a day. I'll just have a mattress on the floor. I'll have one chair, one fork, one spoon, one bowl, one knife. And I'm playing my video game all day. And guess what? Women would still want to...
Like, she's too much for me, bro. Like, I'm so attracted to her because of her sense of humor. But anyways, yeah, people are fed up and they fucking should be because this shit's not funny. Like, I feel like trends on TikToks always like make things seem like light and funny. Yeah. And part of that's good. You don't want everything to be so real and dark all the time. But the reality and the saddest part is how many of experiences are like this online and how many people relate to it, hence it going viral. Like, that's the sad part. It's like people not posting it online are experiencing it too. Like, it's everyone. So yeah.
Yeah. And that made me think too. I don't know why that TikTok made me think it, but I do think men do this a lot at work too. Like, I've experienced men being like, because, you know, they want to be in charge all the time. But then when it comes to things that are more like, quote unquote, women's or feminine tasks, like designing the PowerPoint or being like getting all the information together, like they love to just think out loud and have like the women like go organize it kind of thing, you know? So it plays out like everywhere. And it's just, you have that fed up like rage in you where I think that's also where we get this stereotype of like nagging women, like your nagging wife always nagging you to do shit. So annoying. Like, babe, get off the couch and do the dishes. But the question is,
why does she have to nag you?
To nag you, right.
Why is she even doing that? It's like no one talks about that. I know. It's fucking exhausting, bro. And I swear my mom used to say that shit to me exactly. Like, if I didn't nag you, it wouldn't get done.
Yeah.
And that's how these wives be feeling. Shit. Okay, moving on to this article about this one TikToker kind of calling out this behavior and saying it's fucked up. I just kind of liked it. Essentially, it's the co-host of the podcast Dating Kinda Sucks. His name is Adam Heath Avidable. And essentially his own TikToks on the subject of relationship dynamics have over 4 million likes. He said that there is just this huge environment of people who sometimes need to be called out. If you're not capable of understanding that dishes need to be done, or that the laundry needs to be put away, or that the floor needs to be swept, then you're a fucking moron, okay? And you are an immature little infantile baby. And then he said, I think it's important for men right now to talk about what we've done so that we can move forward. It's about holding ourselves accountable. If you consider domesticity to be beneath you, but it's okay for your partner to do it, then what are you saying about that person? And that line is what got me. Because if we keep, breaking it down, like moving the perspective, it's society, like it's the way boys are raised, blah, blah, blah. But this is just straight up like women like are below us. So therefore they do the cooking, cleaning, and the stuff that, some people like to do, but it's definitely not as good as like what the men do, which is like, I don't know, pay for the family dinner. Like
and that's the thing, like and what he's saying about this, I love that he's a man. And I feel like the more we're talking about it, I'm like, this to me is a men's issue. Whereas like male loneliness, when we were talking about it, I'm like, I feel like it's a men's issue as well as a women's issue.
Right.
And I think with male loneliness, when it comes to mental health and getting help and getting resources, I think weaponized incompetence plays into that as well. If they're just relying on their partner for the emotional labor and not going to therapy, their partner has to schedule it, like whatever. Like that can be the same thing. But the more we talk about it, it's like when women are carrying the brunt of all this fucking work and men consciously or unconsciously, know what they're doing. I think it's a thing for men to get together and talk about. I think women need to like remove the only way it's going to get better for this. I feel like women just have to stop doing shit for men. Like,
that's what I was going to say. If anything, it's stop doing shit for men, and it's, and moreover, stop encouraging it. Like by stop doing it, because you are kind of encouraging it if you allow it to let it to go on.
If you laugh about it. Yeah.
And you laugh about
it. And coddle them.
Like I said, some women, maybe they genuinely don't care because they have so much joy in life that like they want to do it, sure. But the majority of women don't want to be changing diapers and cutting nails 24/7. Like that's just whatever. So also another
I was going to say one more thing before that, but like it when I say like women need to just stop doing it, it gets so messy when you have kids because you can't just not trim your kids' nails and change their diaper. Like someone has to fucking do it.
And they know that.
And they know that. And that's why it's like I feel like you really got to know this shit about your partner before you move in with them, before you have kids with them, because otherwise, you're backing yourself into a corner where you don't even have the privilege anymore to just stop doing the shit you have to.
And I, honest to God, like, have to applaud my dad because he really was not like this growing up. Like, he's definitely would, like, cut my nails and, like, help me with all that sort of stuff. And again, I was only with him half the time, having divorced parents. So it's more like, maybe he just really missed me. And, like, it's different than just being in the same house 24/7. But I don't know. It's because I feel like I talk bad about my dad sometimes. So I want to just be like, he did that. I mean, even the drying hair with paper towels, at least he got it dry, bitch. I don't know.
At least he did something. Right.
Right. But this is in the same light of what we're talking about. This woman, Sarah Spencer Northey, she's a marriage and family therapist based in Washington. She's saying this whole thing is, quote, it's a passive aggressive way of putting that labor back on the person you don't respect enough to step up for. And that's like, okay, well, you don't know how to do this specific task, but the fact that you're not caring enough to learn how to do it or ask your wife, can you show me, can you help me? It's like, it's disrespectful, straight up.
But even the asking, I think, can be too far sometimes. Like, come on.
Go on Google.
Yeah, YouTube.
Right. And then it goes on to say, pretending you don't know how to manage basics like shopping, cooking, and housekeeping is a great way to ensure that a labor imbalance that largely benefits you stays in balance. Like no change is going to happen. Northey says the impact on a partner over time is devastating. It can make you feel crazy because on a surface level, it looks like you're just nagging about chores to a person who defers to your competence. But on a deeper level, you're experiencing not being able to trust and turn to your partner for support, and it's fucking huge, bitch. Like,
because you can't vent to them about it either, because it's like, if you're taking the brunt of all this work and you're stressed out on top of your job and raising your kids and your husband or your boyfriend isn't helping, then you have to go to your girlfriends to talk about it or your family members or whatever, and it's pushing you farther and farther away.
Right. It's like, oh, I have a situation with the kid's nail, but I definitely can't go to my husband for it. He doesn't even, like, that's just a stupid example. But it's like, exactly, it's like all of this is causing, you are supposed to be able to turn to your partner, especially with anything related to the house you're both living in. the
And your
kids you both created. Like, and if there's this dynamic and it's like, yeah, you go to your mom, you go to your grandpa, you go to or your grandma, you go to another woman in your life. And it's just like, it needs to be stopped. And I'm glad that not all relationships do represent this. Like, I think we're definitely moving forward. Like, you know, there are relationships to look up to, but, you know, unfortunately, this might still be the majority.
All right, well, let's get into the next polls that we asked you guys. So we asked, who do you think takes on more domestic responsibilities in straight heterosexual relationships? And 32% said men, 68% said women. And I will say, when looking at the polls and who voted,
women voted for men.
Yeah. No, really?
I saw someone.
I think women want men to. Like, I think that's the way things are turning. Like, even I'm thinking of like how I came into this guy that I'm fucking with now. Like, I feel like I purposely wanted to be more of a like, I don't know how to do shit, so that you do shit, because I'm sick of doing stuff. And I think a lot of women are doing that kind of like, oh, you're the man, you take it.
And you're also kind of insecure about that masculine energy and what that even
what
says.
That means.
Right.
Exactly. But I noticed a lot of men voted for this as well. And like, I cannot get behind thinking that men take on more domestic responsibility.
In general.
Domestic. In general. Right. Gender roles.
Y'all don't even know what pads with wings are. You don't even know how to clean up ketchup. I mean, I know that a lot of you do, but it's like, damn.
I think it is getting better with like Gen Z and younger generations, because like we're having these conversations on TikTok. But still, it doesn't help the fact that like how you were raised, like you have to constantly be like reflecting on this, like unlearning these behaviors. But like, I'm glad at least that mostly for the polls, they recognize that it is women, and like it should be 50-50. It should be 50-50 or 60-40. And like, I will say with my family too, like my mom loves to cook. Like my Nana loves to cook. Like there's certain like domestic things where I remember being young and being like so mad at the women in my life sometimes, because I was like, you are like the epitome of like patriarchy and like gender roles. Like, I'm like, why can't you be the one like going after your dreams? Well, like,
that's
whatever.
What you wanted, like a role
that's
model
what I
to
wanted.
Do that.
Exactly. But then like I got older and I did reflect on things, and I'm like, wow, like my mom really does just love watching YouTube videos about how to make fucking this meal. You know, like that's her hobby, and like that's okay too. Like if a partner really loves doing those things, like the domestic labor, you know, let them do that. Every relationship is fucking different, but it's when it's so unbalanced, when the partner doesn't want to be doing this stuff, is when it's fucked.
Right. All right. Well, let's see what the real answer is. Essentially, Pew Research Center did a report, and we've used them before. Great source. In 2023, and it confirms that even when women are the primary breadwinners in a dual career household, they still spend more time on housework and caregiving compared to their male partners. Mm-hmm. Also, a 2022 study published in the Archives of Sexual Behavior found that women with male partners who do not equally contribute to household labors express lower sexual desire for their partners. Like what we were talking about, it inevitably kind of pushes you away from each other because the trust is losing. Like, that's not sexy. This is not sexy. And the last statistics that we'll share from care.com, it's according to a poll by McKinsey and leanin.org. Since early 2020, mothers are more than 3 times as likely as fathers to shoulder the majority of household and parenting labor. They're also 1.5 times more likely than dads to spend an extra 3 or more hours on chores and childcare. So there you have it, bitches.
It's so, the sexual thing is so fucking real. Because
I was like, oh, I got to include that.
Like, because it's like you start to feel like their mother. Like, you start to feel like their parent when they just don't know how to do this shit. I don't want to suck your dick if you're my son. Like,
you're my boyfriend. I'm not your therapist. I'm not your mom. I'm not your cousin. I'm not your friend.
Right.
Like, I'm the person you're supposed to be loving and supporting and like,
wanting to do
making
things
my
for
life
me
better.
and us.
Like, fuck.
Let's get into our next poll. We asked women, do you think men get lazier as relationships go on? And 81% said yes, 19% said no. And I feel like this is such a thing, because it's like in the beginning they're courting, they're trying to like get your attention, they know they have to show up a little bit more. But I think there's also this trope that it's like women love harder in relationships, and that like they like are more willing to make things work.
Yeah.
But it's
and
also
we're more
like
loving in general.
yeah, but it's also this manipulative thing that I've had men do to me, and I've seen with friends where it's like they'll like get lazier and like pull away, but it's that psychological shit where it's like the woman will like try to do more shit to like get them to like win over their attention and be how it was in the beginning. But it's kind of backfiring because it's like you're just showing them that they don't have to do shit.
I know. And lazy can look like a lot of different things. It can mean lazy like actual domestic responsibilities, and just lazy and like showing up for you in general. And it's like, exactly, it's like once that kind of, you know, for a lot of people, once that chase shit is over, that feeling intensity, it's like I think people, maybe generally speaking, get a little bit lazier as the relationship goes on because the spark is not as strong. But I think healthy relationships like work together to get that spark back, or whatever. At least that's what I want for myself. I don't want it to just be, oh, inevitable, like the spark is dying, like, well, here we are, this is what happens. No, like you can fix that shit. So, and I think like there is this lazy husband trope that like goes on where, again, it's like the nagging wife, the lazy husband on the couch, and that does not help, you know, boys growing up to, you know, we want to help boys grow up to be great, successful, and loving and nurturing men too. And that does not help either. So.
Yeah, and it ruins your sex life because it's like there's also the trope about men getting lazy fucking you and like you not coming and then you needing the vibrator, same position over and over. And it's like it feeds off of each other. Like, again, I feel like I say this all the time, but is it the chicken or the egg? Like, where does it start in the cycle? Because it's like if you start to be lazy around the house, then she's nagging you, you're growing further apart, then your sex life isn't as connected, and then it gets lazy in the bedroom. Like, this shit is not
all connected.
It's all connected. Like, I'm not gonna want to suck your dick if you don't know how to clean up ketchup. Like,
I'm not sucking the soul out of you anymore.
Right.
Fuck.
Okay, last poll that we asked you guys. Men, have you ever deliberately done a task wrong to have your girlfriend take it over? Only 33% of y'all said yes, and 67% said no. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about the deliberately thing, where it's like, I don't think men are complex or smart enough to be thinking on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to do this purposely so that she has to do it and I have to do less. It's so subconscious and ingrained in them, that psychological patriarchy, the way that they were raised, where
but
it's just like,
some of them
but
are
they're
lying.
wrong. I feel they're wrong.
They're wrong, and also some of them are definitely lying. They know that they've done it, and they're saying that they haven't. I believe that too. Both things can be true. But even if you have or you haven't, I mean, stats don't lie, baby. Y'all aren't, you know what I mean? Like, good on you,
Be self-aware, I guess.
Right. Well, let's transition into, you know, kind of like why men should be more reliable and dependable and like not use this sort of weaponized incompetence, and that inevitably pushes you away from your partner anyway. So we basically, the inspo for this whole episode was this TikTok right here. So we will I won't even say anything. Let's just play it.
Messing with an independent woman is a very dangerous game to play, and I don't recommend everybody do it because the first impression means a lot more to her than it does to you. And when I say first impression, I'm not talking about the first time y'all meet each other and how y'all bond. I'm talking about the first time she asks you to do something. If you fuck up, I promise you will never have access to that woman again. Independent woman is very hard on herself because most of the time she's not only delivering for herself, she's also showing up for other people. So she gotta hold herself to this very high standard. And as a man, if you come through saying that you can lighten her load and you fuck up the very first time, you can't really blame her for getting rid of you. When a woman is independent, it's very hard for them to give their responsibilities to somebody else because their entire life, if they wanted shit done correctly, they did it themselves. So if they trust you with doing something for them, you need to show up and you need to do it the right way. I'm saying that to say, when you meet a woman and she's better off without you and she then gives you opportunities to show up for her, you need to look at all of those as privileges because I promise you, if you show up for them when they need you to, you'll be around for a very long time, my boy. Show up and do shit the right way the first time.
So this TikTok is huge. Autumn sent me this and I was like, yes, like this is the topic for an
no,
episode.
Babe, you sent me this.
No, no, babe, you sent me this.
Oh, really?
I know for a fact you sent me this.
Were
yes.
you like proud and shit?
Yes, I was very proud because I was like,
Okay.
this is a complex TikTok. And like this, we could have taken it in multiple different directions. And that's why we had a really hard time with this episode, because this was the inspiration, not the wings, not the ketchup, whatever. Like,
right, exactly. This is kind of like
this was
a
where it
piece of it.
started. Because I think with the weaponized incompetence, there comes this whole stereotype about the lazy husband, but then there comes this stereotype of the independent woman and the woman that's on her shit and gets everything done. And I think a lot of women have experienced a relationship in the past where their husband, boyfriend, whatever, is incompetent, so they've taken on a lot of this labor. Then when women are going into their next relationship, it is so crucial to show up and do things like correctly the first time when she asks, because she's looking for that shit. Like she knows.
Yeah.
Like we reflect on our past relationships and why they didn't go well and like
Just
whatever.
like
and we're
everyone.
yeah. So it's like when we ask you to do something, I think it's like so big, especially in the beginning. And that's not to say that if he does it right in the beginning, he's not going to fuck up later on. You know, because
and it doesn't need to be this grand gesture. It's as simple as like, oh, can you like go on Open Table and make the reservation for us, or when
take
we show
the
up,
initiative. Like,
didn't one of your friends, it was like, or something, it was like they want flowers every time they go on a date, or no, this was a TikTok I saw.
Maybe a TikTok.
Yeah, not one of your friends. But it was like, I believe that I deserve flowers, so I just started asking people like, oh, can you bring me flowers on our date? And like whether they do or whether they don't or whatever. It doesn't even need to be like that, but it's like, it's definitely impactful, and taking away all of this, like first impressions are already so impactful.
Yeah.
But I think the specific thing of like asking for something and then either getting it or not the first time matters a lot to women.
Yeah, because it's like, especially even bigger, doing things on their own and taking initiative. But like when we ask you to do some shit, we don't want to coddle you. We want you to just like be able to do it, and it shows that you're reliable. Like I know with the guy that I'm fucking with again, one of the biggest things with him was that like it's so silly and it's so minuscule. But like I don't drive, I walk to get groceries, or I
know, babe.
You're
it's
so
honestly
over
huge
it.
when they
but
have
it's
a car.
so huge for me because
I
he
get it.
would drive me to the grocery store, and it's like not like the most fun activity. We're going
like you
fucking
never
grocery
even
shopping.
go, like you always order, like you.
I always order them. Exactly. But like one thing that he would do beyond just taking me to the grocery store is like sometimes he would come over and he would be like, do you need to go to Kroger? Like he would ask me if I need to before I have to ask him. And I think that's so big because you're thinking in advance of what I'm going to need, and you're making sure that like I'm good, and you're noticing that there's not as much food in my fridge or whatever. Like you're taking that upon yourself, and that shows that, okay, like I feel safe with you. I can rely on you. You're going to pay attention to things. You're going to ease a burden off of me.
I'm going to suck the dick out of your soul.
Yes.
It's that
I'm going to suck your dick on the way to Kroger, baby. Like,
because it's just like, yeah, it's like the fact that he's like thinking about it, like taking that. It's one thing if you're like, can you take me to Kroger? He says yes. But when he asks you, like that's even better, because it's like women at the end of the day, we want someone that's not only going to align with our life and be good to us, but someone that will make it better. Like make it better. And
make
I think everyone
easier.
wants that in a partner, to be with someone that's fun and whatever, but just makes their life easier and better, even if it's just small things. But yeah, so this sort of going along the same lines from this article, we're going to talk a little bit about Allison Damager. She's a professor of sociology at Harvard University whose ongoing research focuses on the cognitive dimension of household labor. Based on more than 140 interviews, she has found that women and male-female couples typically bear the brunt of the load. Addressing this imbalance, she says, requires a little self-reflection. Yes. I think the first step is to recognize that in almost all cases, you could make some changes if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. It's going to require making conscious thought to break out of those patterns, and that's not necessarily pleasant or fun. So it's like, yeah, breaking out of this ingrained behavior is not something your husband's going to be excited about. So it's like, what do you do? And then Damager calls this rebalancing of the scales a rough transition. Like, it's not fun. One common challenge, she says, is that the female partner in a heterosexual couple who has been doing this stuff for months and years has built up more skills in that specific realm. The partner trying to take on more is probably not going to be immediately as good at these tasks. The trick is to persist, and most couples who do eventually find that the skill gaps start to even out as one partner gets more practice and builds more relationships and so on. So it's like, you know, eventually with enough practice and enough rewiring of, you know, your brain and the tasks and everything, like you can do it.
Yeah, and that rough period is so real because I feel like I can be like a control freak about shit where it's like, okay, like say you're, I don't fucking know, like, because I'm not even like the biggest like domestic bitch out here that like loves to do the dishes a certain way. But like if I see you doing something like super wrong, I would just be like, stop, like let me take it over. But like you really have to stop doing that so that they learn how to do it and just like, you know, go read a book, go watch a show, just leave them to their own fucking devices.
Right. And it's like we said, like this is like a men's issue. Like y'all need to get it together, but at the end of the day, like as women, like we need to stop enabling, and it's like we need to really understand that like raising sons is a difficult task, but it's something that is possible. Like we can do it. And this is the last piece of research that I had. We already kind of talked about it. I talked about how I kind of have weaponized or use weaponized incompetence with my roommate. Same. But I just thought it was interesting that, you know, this does happen in friendships. So this article from HuffPost says, some women have noted that the phenomenon plays out in friendships too, when one friend shoulders all the responsibility for group get-togethers. Some have gone so far as to link it to the orgasm gap.
What?
Men aren't incapable of making a woman come. The thinking goes, they're just weaponizing ignorance, meaning like, they're just not caring enough to learn or take the time to study the complexities of the pussy.
Yep.
I was actually
going to bring that up earlier when we were talking about the sexual shit, because one thing I hate, like I know you talk about communicate with your partner about like how to make you come. This like you should communicate with your partner. I hate doing that because I'm like, I think you should take the initiative to learn yourself.
I do too. I mean, I think you specifically hate doing that. I think a lot of people like doing it and it can be a turn on. So I think that can work. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, I would say a better route would be to either talk to your guy friends or female friends. Yeah. Like that's like a friend thing. Like at the end of the day, your partner can give you tips and say yes or no or move that way or whatever. But like, you should care enough about her pleasure that like you did a nerdy fucking YouTube video on
or
it.
You like play with her body and like learn while you're fucking too. Like
just
you
pay
like
attention,
go with the flow. Bro. Like you don't just give up. Cause like I've had an ex before in the past that would like, and our relationship was bad in other areas, which I think bled into the sex, but he would just like give up and be like, you're not pleased right now. And it's like, okay, well, I'm still trying to get there, but I'm giving you the opportunity to like whatever, you know, and I'm trying to teach you too. But I do think the thing with like friendships is super big as well. Like I feel like I've started doing the bimbocore shit so much more with like work and just like in general with shit, because I realized that like sometimes it's easier to just like relieve your brain and the stress about it. Like I literally had a situation at work today that was like insane. Like it was some like sexism shit going on where we were like, two women in the call were like not arguing, but debating with this guy about this like issue. And she was getting really frustrated and she called me after to like vent about it. And I'm kind of like, there's certain points where I just tap out. Like I've learned to just be like, you know what, if they want to do it this way, when 6 months later it doesn't work, I'm not my problem. Like it's not my shit. Like I feel like I've come to do that more in a lot of like friendships, like relationships, all of that shit, because I'm like, otherwise it's going to eat you alive and you're going to carry this, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's almost like what doesn't, you know, what you're not really caring about isn't going to hurt you. So it's easier to just do that. No, I totally get it.
Okay, guys. So let's get into our listener stories. Thank you to everybody that submitted. Again, So Wet, So Dry on Instagram if you want to vote in our polls and listener stories. But our first one is, someone said they lose that chasing you spark. They take you for granted, meaning men. Valid.
And I kind of said that in the beginning. It's like when it's that chase is over, that high, intense, erotic sex.
Yep.
Then it's like they get kind of lazy, and it's like unfortunate. And like I said, like that happens to everyone in relationships. Like there's definitely periods where you're not like maybe doing the most. Like we're all human beings, but it does seem to be a consistent trend for men based on what girlfriends are saying about them. So
yeah, and a lot of like stable, healthy relationships like will lose that chasing you spark because you guys are comfortable, you're solid, you're stable, but like
it's inevitable for the most
yeah,
part.
but that's when the like work comes in of like those uncomfortable conversations of like how do we split up the
and that's
domestic
why
labor?
I don't want to be in a relationship because
Yeah.
it's like a lot. Yeah. So this next listener said, sometimes my girlfriend will nag me to do chores and then I'll do them on my own time, but it's never good enough. Or she says I did it wrong. Okay. Well, this is from a male listener. And we kind of talked about that a little bit. It's like, well, during this rough transition, if like your boyfriend is doing tasks, he's probably his skill level's not as high. He's not going to do it the perfect way that you've done it. But I think honestly to that, I say like, well, just talk to your girlfriend about like how that makes you feel and just like reassure her that like you are trying and like whatever, like you'll do better, but also like don't minimize. Like if you are making an effort, then that's, that's great.
Yeah, I think like the first thing, the fact that you are making an effort is like huge. And like sometimes like how we talked about in the male loneliness episode, like men are always stereotypically the best at like expressing how things make them feel, and it can be hurtful for you to want to do something for her. You're trying to make things better and then you just get shut down, and then you might get frustrated and you just don't talk about it anymore. But like I think if you really express that to her and like said that, she would be like, oh wow, like he really does care and he is trying, and like get through that rocky period
right
shit.
Because you should think about like why she's making you feel like that. Like, have you fucked up a lot? Like,
right, exactly. Like it took you a journey to get here. So
yeah.
All right, next one. Someone said, lucky to have an emotional, loving, supportive man with money, $sign, $sign. But I am his second and last girlfriend. So she's got it locked in. She's in there for life. She found a good one and she's like, I'm keeping him.
Like, congratulations, bitch. Like,
right. I'm fucking happy for you because that's like we talked about. I think it was the loneliness episode. It feels like you're a cockroach searching for fucking water out here.
Yeah, so it's like so amazing when someone says that.
Right.
Okay, this last listener story we're going to share is this person said, oh God. Okay. This person said, well, I make the money, so she cooks and cleans. It's even, to be honest. That's how it should be. Oh no. I hope this person's listening to the episode. Do you still feel that way?
After the whole episode, if you made it this far, because it's like I want to be like, if that's what works for your relationship and you guys are both happy, okay, none of my fucking business. Keep doing what you're doing. Go for it. But I think it's a big turnoff, especially in today's fucking day and age, for men to come to the table and say that shit, because it's like, okay, what if I like making money too? Like, and what do you mean you're never gonna clean? Like, what about cleaning up after yourself? Like, you shave, like clean it up in the sink. Like, I don't know.
And every couple needs to have like, tasks that they do. So it's like he's saying, it's like, well, it's balanced. What's wrong with it? And that's what a lot of people do argue.
Yeah.
But it's like in 2024, you're saying I make money, she cooks and cleans. Like, just think about that for a second. Like, it's 2024. Like, that's not like what is to be expected. I think some women might be cool with it, and that's fine if it works. But exactly, like, you're never gonna clean. So if you spill ketchup on the counter, like,
you just call her.
like, that's just, I don't even if with a healthy, balance of like, I clean the bathrooms, do the laundry, takes the kids to class, you cook all the meals and arrange the play dates. Like, there's always going to be wiggle room. You're not always going to be the one to arrange the play dates. Like, but it's just like, that's, the goal. And that's the same thing like with us. Like, we balance a workload.
Yeah.
And sometimes like, you'll post a TikTok when that's technically my job, but it's like you had something or whatever.
Right. Like you communicate and you pick up and you like understand. But another thing I'm going to say, just last thing with that is like, I feel like we didn't really talk about this as much, but like it's a big thing for men to be like, oh, well, I make the money. I'm hard at work. So this is what she does. It's even, but then also not respect how much work that takes, like how much emotional labor, how much, you know, like they're just like, oh, this is her job. So like, why is she complaining? But then it's fine for you to complain about work and stuff too. So like, if that is the dynamics of your relationship and that's what works for you, like, I hope you recognize that her work is just as valuable as yours is, you know?
Totally. Such a great point, dude.
Talk
about leaving them on a good fucking
right.
point. But now we're going to do our little wrap up segment on the episode where we basically just wrap up with talking about what we're so wet, dry, but also a little confused about the specific topic. So in this case, weaponized incompetence. Do you want to start or should I start?
Do you want me to start?
I would love it if you did personally.
Okay, so
my throat's hurting. We've been talking for...
I know. I've been smoking mad cigarettes. I smoked a lot
I'm
last
like
night too.
chain smoking.
And it's cold. But okay, I'm wet. I'm honestly wet about the stories that we've heard from men that are like making the effort and taking the initiative to like at least recognize
like
the
throughout
problem.
the episode.
Yeah, and it's going to be like the essay from that guy. Like, I really liked that and his little metaphor.
Good.
Like, that was a really good story. Like, I really like to see that. And again, like, me and Autumn are on this new leaf of not hating men all the time and talking down to them. Like, we want to recognize and encourage and see them as whole human beings and like ways that we can work together as men and women to have healthy heterosexual relationships, friendships, whatever. So like, I do want to acknowledge that and encourage like any men who are listening that are making an effort. And like, if you even listen to the episode, that's a first step. So I'm really wet about that. But other than that, I don't know really what I'm wet about because I think it's pretty dry.
I'm definitely wet that like low key, like men can't get away with anything anymore. Like,
right.
And like we still let them get away with stuff. We baby them. Oh, they're so cute. They're 12-year-old, blah, blah, blah. But it's like we really be analyzing their behaviors as a culture more than ever before.
Because of social media. Like it's out
social
there.
media. It's our generation. And like, I'm definitely wet about that. Like,
Yeah.
honest to God, like it's pretty fucking cool that like we have like a 2-hour podcast episode on like these issues because before it's like they were just never talked about. It was the social norm, socially acceptable, and it still is kind of socially acceptable, but I would argue to say it's not really the norm anymore.
Yeah.
But I think people still get away with it even though it's not, because we saw those statistics like women are still doing more domestic responsibilities. And not all of them want it to be that way. I mean, come on.
Right.
Definitely not true. So I'm wet about that. I would say I'm also just wet. Actually, I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, though. So women are honestly running social media, guys. Like, I'm sorry, but like,
right? I'm like, what money are you making?
Like, we're talking about these issues. Like, we are coming the fuck up. So that's a really good one. Dry. I'm obviously dry about like men who do this shit. I'm dry about like I get, it's always weird talking about your family because I don't want to make it seem like it was like so bad or whatever, but like I am dry that I did grow up in a household that was like pretty gender roles, even though they are in no means like as extreme as like some people I've met in the South and like more religious like families and stuff like that. Like I'm still very privileged for it to not be that much, but I'm dry about
but
like,
it affected you,
but
and
it
that
affected
it goes
me.
to say something. So
right, and I'm dry about like the humor in it because I feel like that's a big thing that I've struggled with all of my partners is when they don't know how to do things, and when I take them on, like my coping mechanism with it is to find it funny and to find it cute. And I think that's something that I got from my family, like these TikToks. Like I would see some of these and like laugh about it, but it's not funny. Like it's okay to laugh, it's okay to laugh things off. Like sometimes it's easier to be like happy about it versus whatever, but like it is a serious issue. So like I'm dry about that, but at the same time I'm wet that we're talking about it because it's something that I'm reflecting on, and I'm like, okay, like this is something to pay attention to in future relationships.
And it's not only you. It seems like everyone copes with humor. It seems like the wives posting this and the girlfriend, they're also coping with humor because at the end of the day, it's like we're talking about it as like these are other people's partners and all of that, but them actually making the TikTok, posting it online to show that their boyfriends are so stupid. I mean, it's like a weird fucking thing. And I even saw this one article like, should we also be mad that the wives are like setting their husbands up to be humiliated online?
I was about to say, because we didn't really talk about that, but I was about to say that because I'm like, I think a lot of people would argue, especially men, like, oh, that's the partner that you picked. Oh, like you just picked the wrong partner. You're enabling it. You're putting up with it. But like, I think once we realize how big of a fucking social issue this is, how like consistent it is across all men and like women in relationships, it's like you can't, it's good that they're talking about it, you know? It's not ill-intended. I don't think it's meant to connect and talk about the issue.
Yeah, and of course not everyone is like dumb enough they don't know how to pick up or clean up ketchup, but there's a lot of examples like more minor like microaggression type shit where it's like it builds up. It might not be blatantly fucked up, but like over time. So I'm just dry about the overall dynamic. I think and the first thing I think of is it just makes me feel sad for the women that have to deal with that. Yeah. And I feel sad for straight people that they're not queer or fluid and that's their only option. I mean, that sucks. But yeah, it's just kind of a big old dry of a fucking episode. When you really think about it. And like I said, like it can be fun to laugh and we always want to come on here and laugh with you guys, but bottom line is the root of weaponized incompetence is actually like very dark and sad and just like another big problem in the United States and probably everywhere
and
else
other
as
countries
well.
Probably as well, if not more.
Right.
And yeah, I think for confused, I'm still like with everything that we talk about, it's like confused about how it's going to get better. Like I think we gave some good examples of like ways women can stop enabling men and men can reflect on things more. But like that little uncomfortable period or even having that conversation, like unless you're in therapy, how do you get over that hump? And I feel like so many relationships, it'll be an issue like this or an issue with sex where it just becomes the fucking break all to your relationship. So like I'm a little bit confused about how to still have these conversations when it happens, but also pre the relationship because you don't know how they're going to be in like 5 months to a year to 2 years when you have kids. You can't always see into the future. But it's uncomfortable, you know? So like I'm confused about how to have those conversations like with your partner. I don't know the best advice to give you guys except have those conversations. But
yeah, I think have those conversations. And honestly, if it doesn't go well and your partner's like, even if they think it's ridiculous, they should see that you're concerned and therefore want to take action to make that better. So I know it sucks, but it's like, unfortunately, maybe it should break the relationship because you deserve to be with someone, you know, better than that. So it's hard, but you have to do it. Being in relationships is hard. No one ever said it was easy. You know, love is fun. But I really think after that first year, like shit gets real, baby. So buckle up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I'm confused about our polls because all the men were lying.
Yes, that's a good one. Like what, why?
I'm like, maybe they weren't lying. It's like maybe they, you know, want to show that they're good, quote unquote, good men. Or maybe you're right. It's like they really don't think that they're doing it, even though they are. Maybe they're genuinely not doing it. Yeah. I don't know. But that's confusing because I feel like I know that they do it. Like it goes on for sure. I think exactly like what you said, they don't have the full definition of what, because even it's like I admitted, like I've done it. I've done it when I was younger.
I've done it too.
Did it with my roommate. Like I get it. Like no
with
one wants
parents,
to do fucking house chores, bitch. But like we got to. But yeah, so I think that about does it for this episode. Please let us know if you guys liked it or if you didn't like it by dropping a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're also watching on YouTube, please subscribe, like, share, all of that. If you're on Spotify, follow us, give us a 5-star rating. It would mean so much to us. And we're also on all social media platforms at So Wet So Dry. The O's are zeros, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that.
Yes, and if you guys are listening on Spotify as well, or even if you aren't and you want to financially support us, we have listener support. 99 cents a month, $4.99 or $9.99. It really helps us get better equipment like mics, take trips to produce better content for you guys. We really, really appreciate that. And we love you so much. We will catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye. No matter what, I'm gonna continue to like move the way I've been moving.
Yeah.
Because I do think first is important. The sex that I like is not for everyone. It's definitely not for the week.
Yeah.
So I need to see what you got going on. That is like my fantasy acting time. And I really like to perform. And like I need someone that's gonna give me that energy back.